The summer science program stands alone in the world. 50 summers of challenge and intellectual excitement, and today, stronger than ever. How did this happen? And why has SSP thrived? Let's go back to the beginning. In a real sense, SSP was conceived on October 4th, 1957, when the Soviet Union launched Sputnik.
Sputnik represented a shock that we had fallen behind technologically our adversary in this long-term struggle, and we looked around to say, well, what are we going to do about that?
18 days later, Thatcher's headmaster sent this letter to the president of Stanford. Paraphrased, it said, "I want to find the brightest future scientists and give them a summer that will multiply their choices and change their lives." With support from Caltech, Pomona College, Harvey Mudd College, Hughes Aircraft, and several foundations, the summer science program started up in 1959 with 26 boys from 4 Southern California counties.
The primary goal that we have, and the design of the program is built around, is the intellectual and social development of the students. That is what we're here for, and we use the math and science to accomplish that goal.
In 1959, with the space race fully engaged, SSP's founders made the obvious choice for the summer curriculum: astronomy.
Well, if there's a magical ingredient in the summer science program, I think it's in this asteroid problem. This is a problem that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Most problems don't. It was clear to me from the beginning that the curriculum laid down by the Hughes Aircraft Company would never work. So I turned the thing around more or less by insisting that the kids take photographs of the asteroids first, measure their positions, then determine the orbital elements.
Astronomy turned out to be an excellent long-term choice for 3 reasons. First, it requires a lot of sophisticated math and physics. Second, it's rarely studied in any formal manner in high school, so all participants arrive with the same general levels of knowledge and interest. SSP's founders knew this. What they didn't realize, and what turned out to be a huge plus for teenagers, is that when you do astronomy, you get to stay up really late at night.
You may think that math and science doesn't have much romance, magic, or wonder to it. For me, it was an eye-opening experience because when I came here, I was doing math and calculus and writing programs, and to think that all these numbers on a piece of paper could describe the motion, the changing velocity, and everything else. I mean, if that's not magic, I don't know what is.
We had some problems with our plates, and I don't really remember what the problems were, but I remember it wasn't looking good for us to get our orbit.
We had all our coordinates, and we had a nice series starting up here, winding up down here. There was this one point out in the middle of nowhere.
I know, look. All these were bad.
And we went back and looked at the plate and realized that what we'd measured was a little flaw in the plate, something in the glass, whatever. That was no asteroid. It wasn't there on the star charts, that's why we thought it was the asteroid. But it was nowhere near where our asteroid was. We went back, we compared to the star charts, we found where our asteroid really was, we remeasured everything. The new point was exactly in the right place on the curve. But we'd only been dealing with these numbers. We'd never visualized what the data was telling us, or would have known right away that we were measuring garbage.
It was clear from the beginning that the very best students demanded the very best teachers.
After the first year of the summer science program, I knew that I needed some help in lecturing. And I'd heard that George Abel was a fantastic lecturer. So I phoned him up one day, and I convinced him to join us at the summer science program the following summer. Well, George was a great teacher, great textbook writer, and a great human being. He inspired the kids, he really did. And I think he appreciated the fact that he could work with students who were really bright, really bright.
As I look back on SSP, the best thing about it was the intensity of it and the camaraderie of it. and the faculty.
The academic faculty to student ratio here at SSP is really wonderful. There's 36 students and there's 7 faculty, and that amounts to about a 5-to-1 ratio, and which is really great because you always have a chance to talk to the teacher. They're incredibly approachable and they always have time for you.
At SSP, you discover your strengths. You get pushed outside your comfort zone, and you work really hard.
What I did at SSP was a concentrated form of being a physics major at an Ivy League university. So by the time I got to college, I knew how to do that.
The most challenging part of SSP was how much material there was to learn, how hard it was to learn, how little time we had to learn it in, and the fact that I was sleepy. That's why the problem sets were so hard. It's all a fog.
And just simply multiply by this part over here. Because I multiply this part.
It's a little bit like riding an intellectual rocket sled. So there's a great acceleration. Learning at as fast a pace as you possibly can handle, or often a little bit faster than that.
The pace at which it goes makes it pretty challenging. It really does push you to the limits.
Yeah, we want to know the frequency of the oscillations of both the particles.
Of both the particles separately?
Yeah, separately.
You really have to challenge yourself before you can understand and truly appreciate the coursework and the research.
What came from SSP most strongly was a lesson that I could work really hard and that I could hold my own among other really sharp people.
This is both a right brain and a left brain activity, and it was so wonderfully integrated.
The minor axis of the ellipse, which is B, and we can derive the squishiness, which...
At SSP, we put a group of very bright teenagers with common interests together for 6 weeks. Then we turn up the heat. It's a recipe for dramatic growth and positive change.
I had a few friends in high school that I felt comfortable with and who were, everybody as smart as I was. But there were only a couple of us. At SSP, it's everybody.
Everybody here was great at math, great at science. They picked things up really fast.
They're as smart as you, they're smart differently than you, and you'll get to work together to do something that from where you are right now, you probably don't think is possible to do. And that experience will stay with you for the rest of your life.
The things that stick out were not so much the technical part of it. It was just being with a really great bunch of peers.
The people around here, the friends I've made here, are definitely different from the people back home in Singapore, because everyone here is just as motivated as I am, and so we communicate on a different level.
That sense of community and of excellence, if you will, really was the most enjoyable and most fun thing that I've really carried with me ever since.
You get to be yourself at SSP. You're encouraged to be as smart as you truly are. And you make friends. You make lots of friends. You make friends for life.
SSP was, for me, a life-changing experience. It was the first time I was ever in a social group where I wasn't an outsider, which was an unexpected and completely marvelous feeling.
SSP was the first place where the vistas were open. It was still 3 hours of lecture in the morning, 3 hours of lecture in the afternoon. It looked a lot like a standard classroom, but it wasn't a standard classroom. It was a joint exploration of the universe.
It was the first time that I was at a place where I didn't have to pretend to be stupid.
Here, everybody was at my level, and I could do everything that I wanted to do. I could go as fast as I wanted to go. I didn't have to wait for anybody. other people could come up with things that I actually had to think about, it's wonderful.
Practically, I find just making friends a lot easier at SSP.
You put gay dots? Yes.
But I met people here, girls here, who can just blow me away when it comes to math and science. And it's a really great experience because, you know, I guess I'm not as sexist as I used to be.
You'll be with peers that you didn't know existed, and those experiences and memories will stay with you for the rest of your life.
Sure, SSP is hard work. It's challenging, but it's much more than that. It's great fun.
Yeah, we were all pretty social at SSP. That was one thing I found really fun. It was a very social group.
Pizza! At nighttime, when the girls were around, we talked about science, and when the girls were not around, we talked about girls.
I had remembered that we did a lot of hardcore science and math. I hadn't remembered how much fun we had.
We were having a blast here. But my memories are mostly of the really great fun we had, just things we did with the TAs, times at the beach.
We play soccer almost every night. We play frisbee, we play poker, we play cards, we play foosball. There's a great foosball player, and I think I've become a much better foosball player because of my foosball experience at SSP.
I could kick your ass any day.
I found here in my notebook, with all of my notes and problem sets and everything else, sheet music. Oh, that's right. I directed a choir. We sang the Gloria from Vivaldi's Mass in G.
And then, of course, at night we had guest speakers come and visit the kids. And that was a real boon to the program.
Guest speakers were probably one of the highlights of my time at SSP. We just had this incredible range of speakers. I still go to the website and see who's coming to speak.
Take a person like Richard Feynman. He obviously thought the SSP program was really worthwhile, otherwise he wouldn't come up there. Harrison Storms thought so. He was a vice president of North American, also the designer of the Mustang fighter. It was amazing, you know, to show a picture of, say, the X-15 being blown up on the ground, and then the lights come on, and there's Scott Crotchfield standing in front of the kids. People like that. William Pickering, head of JPL, used to come up there all the time. Now these people were convinced by me on the telephone of the uniqueness of the program, but they wouldn't have kept on coming up there unless they saw it themselves and believed it afterwards.
The summer before last, I had the opportunity to return to SSP for the first time in exactly 40 years since I'd been there, and gave a guest talk, much like the guest talks that I had enjoyed so much when I was a participant. After I finished, there were 6 or 8 or 10 of the kids who hung around to ask questions, and they were good questions. They had been listening hard, and they had the sort of enthusiasm and just plain glint in their eyes that reminded me of the intensity and the ambition of the kids that I remembered from 40 years before.
SSP is transformative. We grab students just before they apply to college and expose them to new possibilities. The result? Our alumni go to the top colleges and pursue intriguing and challenging careers.
I think anybody who's in science and technology who doesn't deal with young people is missing out big time. Because those bright young minds asking the questions that we've forgotten to be bold enough to ask, they really stir things up in a wonderful way.
And I'm thinking about for college, MIT, or Stanford, or Caltech, like these really intense schools. And SSP was known for that. So I wanted to get a taste of that and see if I responded to it well.
Not everyone who goes to SSP ends up doing astronomy or even physical sciences. But there are a few of us in whom the bug got lodged and stuck, and I'm one of them.
SSP has provided me with a foundation for a career later on in life in math and science. And while I don't know if I want to be an astronomer per se, it definitely has provided me with a significant background in many of these topics, which I will definitely be able to use later in life.
And after SSP, I think I was mentally much more connected to a much broader community. That is, I didn't see myself as coming from East Los Angeles, but I saw myself as going toward the science and engineering community.
Well, the biggest challenge and the biggest surprise at SSP was meeting the Bendix G15 computer. And actually, that's what changed my life.
And I think what SSP did was a great confidence boost. It also was a great discipline in learning how to work hard. And I think also it made the point that you could do it with a group of other people and work in a team in a way that was really joyous.
And that ability to form teams and solve problems, which I started learning at SSP, is probably one of the most valuable skills I got from my whole education and something I use every day now.
There are three things that happen to almost every kid who comes to SSP. The first day you walk in,
all of a sudden, you're not the smartest kid in the room.
The second thing happens maybe a week into the program. One of the senior instructors is writing some equation on the board, and for the first time in your life, you don't get it. You ask a question, you still don't get it.
This was the first time in my life that someone had ever tried to teach me something at a pace faster than I could handle.
I remember when that happened to me. I went back to my room, sat on the edge of my bed. There were tears rolling down my eyes. And I thought my life was over. I was 16 years old and I'd gone as far as I was ever going to go. But this is a very collegial atmosphere. And one of the other students came in and said to me, why the long face? And I said,
The kid, if he was floundering, would go back to the dorm, and his peers would help him out. That's where most of the learning took place.
And he said, let me show you how to do it. And that was 10 minutes later, my life started over again. But the third thing is really the most important. It's the one that lasts longest. And that is for almost all the kids who come to SSP. For the first time in your life, you're really, really popular. And if you're a teenager, what's more important than that? SSP thrives because of its people, its students, its faculty, its guest speakers. SSP changes lives, and in that way, it changes the world.
I think there are some educational institutions, some educational experiences which have special magic to them. And the summer science program is one of those. And I just wish, that more people had those kinds of opportunities when they were young. I think the world would be the better for it.
The Summer Science Program, or SSP as we call it, has been around since 1959. We are probably the oldest, most challenging, most highly regarded enrichment program for science and math high school students in the United States and perhaps the world. It was founded as a result of Sputnik.
Thank you very much. I commend you for this program.
Thank you.
We need future scientists in this nation, so thank you very much for what you do.
It's an exciting opportunity to really engage young people in science, especially those that are most promising to advance the whole world of science and engineering.
Programs like SSP are going to give us the young people that are going to lead us in the future. The explorers and adventurers who have the brain power to get us where we need to go.
In 1999, when a small group of passionate and grateful alumni took over operating SSP, we soon learned that our enthusiasm was echoed throughout the entire alumni base. SSP has thrived and is thriving today because of the support of its 2,000 plus alumni. Where do we go from here? Our alumni, current and future, hold the key to SSP's next 50 years.
We operate as a nonprofit corporation at a built-in deficit every year. We couldn't charge students the full cost of putting this program on, which is on the order of $6,000 per student. Very few families would have the means to pay that, and so by definition almost, we have to raise at least half of our budget from donations.
It's such an intense experience that you remember it for the rest of your life, and that you are willing to support it, give money to it, encourage other people to do it. And that's what makes it last. You know, I was there in 1970. I'm still giving you guys money. It was really the best summer of my life.
I have a 5-year-old son, and I hope he gets a chance to do SSP.
If I could go back in time to the summer science program as it was in 1959, I don't think I'd change anything.